everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about some money matters in the Philippines. Specifically about when you travel to the Philippines and also other countries as an American, because that's where my point of view is of moving money to the Philippines. We're going to talk about sending yourself money. We're going to talk about debit cards. We're going to talk about credit cards, and we're going to talk about best practices of being able to access your money when you're in the Philippines or really anywhere when you're traveling in the world. So let's get into it. Using debit cards in the Philippines is expensive. So when you go and take one of your foreign debit cards from a bank account, say in the United States, and you want to use it in the Philippines, you are going to be charged a fee of around 250 pesos. So roughly $5 in the US. I'll talk about the differences here coming up in just a second with the amounts of cash that you can actually pull out of these machines. In using ATMs in the Philippines, I've found that two of the banks, specifically BPI in the province, as well as Security Bank, will allow you to withdraw 20,000 pesos, which is a little bit more right now than 400 US dollars. Whereas most of the ones, in fact, all of the other ATMs that I have used anywhere in the provinces have only allowed me to withdraw 10,000 or a little over 200 US dollars. So 10,000 pesos. Now, the ATMs charge on international debit cards a fee of 250 pesos, which is going to be $5 a pop. So if you're getting out $200 at a time, you're doing that several times over the course of a month, 4, 5, 6 times a month, then those fees are going to add up. And your bank back at home, especially if you're in Europe, you're in Canada, you have another bank account in the United States, then those fees can add up very much even higher than that because of your home bank. Now, I use Charles Schwab, and there's a couple other debit cards through banks that will allow you to still pay that fee, but at the end of each month, I get reimbursed for all my ATM fees. So all those $5 fees, every single time, I get those back. It's much different than in the United States, where if you're using a different ATM, there may be a small fee. Here, it's very, very large. By the way, before we get any farther into this video, if there's anything that you do in the Philippines or in any other country when you're going abroad to move money to yourself, or credit card suggestions, or any other things that you do to take care of money matters in a foreign country, make sure you leave it down in the comments below to try to help out other people and to give suggestions, because you may know something better or a product that is better than what I have described in this video. Thanks so much. Now, I personally generally use my Charles Schwab account. I'm not an affiliate with them. I wish I could be an affiliate with them, because I recommend it whether I make money or not. But if I could make money doing that, I would absolutely do it, because I recommend it to everybody. So though the Charles Schwab account reimburses me all of my foreign transaction fees when I actually take money out of a foreign ATM, so if I'm paying 250 pesos, $5 here in the Philippines, they reimburse me all of those fees back at the end of the month in one lump sum. It's just a great, great place to bank with, and also to do your brokerage services if you want to do trades yourself. Credit cards. You want to make sure that whatever credit card you're using abroad here in the Philippines is going to charge you 0 foreign transaction fees. Most credit cards do charge you foreign transaction fees in addition to the exchange rate that they're going to try to make money on you with, in addition to what other fees they're going to put on there, and these can add up very, very quickly. So make sure whichever card you're going to use at the stores are going to have 0 foreign transaction fees. And there's, at the low level end of credit, there's like, I think it's the, I wouldn't say it's the Quicksilver card. Capital One, I think it's Capital One, that has no foreign transaction fees. Then when you get up into the upper level Visa cards, that you have the travel points and things like that on it, which are absolutely great. You should look into getting those, because if you travel a lot outside, you can actually get miles on those. But those generally have no foreign transaction fees. One of the best ways to move money internationally is if you have access to a bank account in the country that you're going to be at, such as here in the Philippines, is to do basically wire transfer services or other services that will pull money directly out of your bank account, say in the United States, and transfer it directly to a bank account in the Philippines. The service that I like best to do that with is what's Wise. It was Transferwise years ago when I set it up, but it literally, I hook those up to my bank accounts. I can pull money from my US bank account in US dollars, transfer it to the Philippines in Filipino pesos into a bank account here, and they give me the mid-market rate for the exchange of money, which is really, really good. I did one for like $1,600 at the beginning of the month, and it was, I think the mid-market rate was 35 pesos, which, no, excuse me, 55 pesos, which is really, really good. It was a little over 55. It was basically what you look at when you look at Google, what the exchange is. That was basically what they were charging me. There was no markup or markdown trying to make money off of the exchange like a lot of banks do. In addition, they do charge you a fee, and I think the fee on that to transfer, I think it was $13 to transfer 1,600 US dollars into a Filipino bank account. So in the Philippines, cash is absolutely king. A lot of times you'll be out in the province areas, or heck, even in the cities, and sometimes ATM machines won't work. Some places credit card readers are down, and you're just not able to use them, and you have to have access to cash. And also a lot of the smaller places, they just don't accept anything but cash. And so you really need to be able to have cash with you in the Philippines. A lot of different countries are like this. Albania, when I lived there, it was purely a cash country. There was very, very few places I could actually use a credit card, and using a debit card was actually even difficult, finding a place that I could use those. So when you travel outside the United States, you're limited to $10,000 in cash taking with you without reporting it. Now, you can take any amount of money you want to, but anything over $10,000, you actually have to file a form with Customs and Immigrations before you leave. You can do it right before you leave to go to the plane, but you have to do that. Don't advise doing that. That's a ton of money. I have done that before. I will tell you, it's not really that scary. You go into the outbound custom service, you got to find those. Sometimes it's very difficult to find in the airport. Once you're there, you fill out a form declaring out how much cash you're taking. They take that from you. They actually count the money, and you have to report every dime that you have. So if you got it in your wallet too, you've got to bring that out. They'll ask you where on the form that you got this money from your personal savings, from your bank account, from work, from income, from selling a house. Then you do that and you take it. Now, coming into countries such as the Philippines, they have declaration requirements too. So if you're going to bring more than $10,000 in cash, US dollars, into the Philippines, you actually have to file a declaration here in the Philippines when you come. I have never, ever traveled with that much cash to the Philippines. Would not do that. It wouldn't be necessary. When I have done it in the past, and this has been many, many years ago, it was to different countries, and it was really before you had the ability to quickly get money to yourself as easily and at such low cost. Now, the most important thing about moving money abroad, using credit cards, debit cards, anything else, is doing everything before you leave the United States or your country in triplicate. And so what I mean by that is, if you're going to set up a a Wise account or a Remitly, any of these types of fintech solutions that can allow you to send money from your bank account to another bank account, set those up before you leave home. Don't try to do those once you get abroad. It's much harder, it's much more complicated. You want to do those and then test them before you leave to make sure they're working. It is much easier to get something corrected with your home bank account or these fintech solutions in your home country than it's going to be once you get here to the Philippines. And you want to have everything again done in triplicate. 3 different credit cards, 3 different US bank accounts if you're in the United States, 3 different fintech solutions to bring them over, and then tied to your bank accounts, you're going to have, obviously 3 different debit cards, one for each of those banks. Because when one of those fails, you're thousands of miles away from home in an airplane ride before you can get back and fix that if you can't fix it over the phone. So you want to have it set up in triplicate, so if that one fails, even if a second one fails, you've got a third option to go to. I would also highly suggest getting a PayPal account, making sure that that works before you leave the United States. If you're going to use the PayPal account, do it through a VPN when you're abroad so they don't freeze your account. If you access that, they might detect suspicious activity. If you just log into a normal internet connection, say in the Philippines, I've heard horror stories of people not being able to get their PayPal accounts or other fintech solution accounts reactivated until they get back to the United States. If you're also going to be taking any sort of online payments, if you're going to be doing like an online business, or you think that eventually you might want to try to earn money online, I would also suggest going ahead and getting a Stripe account set up as another option on top of these other fintech solutions. Now, with these fintech solutions, such as Wise or with PayPal, I would never want to leave more money in those accounts than I'm willing to lose. So, you know, realize that they are for transferring money. I wouldn't hold great deal amounts of money in them. I wouldn't hold great deal amounts of money in the Philippines. I like the banking here for local use, being able to keep cash and being able to get it out for my monthly expenses, but it's not a country that I would store a lot of my money that I was worried about losing. Here in the East, before, it had always been Singapore for me, otherwise back in the United States or some other country. So that's kind of a basic rundown of how I move money and how I use electronic payment devices. I obviously have more than that. I run 2 different businesses, so I have more accounts than just my personal accounts and the personal things that I have described here that I use. If you have those, you're going to be having even more accounts if you're doing businesses that are LLCs or they're incorporated or otherwise. But this is the basic just for somebody who's going to go, they're going to retire, they're just going to be living there, they're not really going to be doing any business. These have been very effective for me. I hope they're effective for you. If you have other comments on those, I'll try to get to them down in the comments below. Or maybe somebody else who's had an experience can answer one that they know if you got questions about it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can find more of it. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it so you let other people know that this content is actually worth watching.